Well, after a very non-eventful WASD report this month, the markets are already back to trading on other things. It's time now to take a look at the closing market summary, and I'm joined by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Jason, first off, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
The grain market started the day off on fire again. We had some hostilities there in Iran or the Strait of Hormuz. So that kind of gave the corn and bean market a nice little jump in the overnight. And then we also heard that Brazil is suspending exports of beans to China, and it's just only the Cargill facilities. I guess the Chinese are asking the Brazilian government before the bean boats leave the port to maybe check for weeds and seeds. Cargill had not been doing that, so there's some talk in the trade that maybe this is a way China's playing the game behind the scene to maybe get some beans bought from the U.S. ahead of Trump and Xi's upcoming meeting here.
So when we come along to that, news down there in South America, you mentioned there is a chance to see those purchases from the U.S. down there. Do we think that would come to fruition soon? Or I know sometimes when it comes to those export sales, they kind of get listed as unknown first, and then we don't find out until later.
Yeah, I don't think they'll come to the U.S. right away here, but just it gives the traders something to talk about. I would think Cargill and Brazil would figure out a way to appease the Brazilian government. And they have a lot of boats en route to China, so it'd be in their best interest to get that figured out sooner rather than later. But if this kind of goes beyond a week to 2 weeks, you can look at that as a sign that maybe China's going to actually come to the U.S. and buy some beans.
And we normally don't talk a ton about outside the ag marketplace, but with everything going on in Iran and like you mentioned, the Strait of Hormuz, a lot of pressure on the crude oil markets. And we could see that. I mean, it already does have a big impact, but we can see that be an especially big impact on the grain markets, right?
A huge impact on the grain markets. As energy goes, the grain markets are following pretty much in tangent. Maybe the exception was on Tuesday on the WASD report, where the grain markets just kind of took a little bit of a breather. But there's a little bit of risk out there, uncertainty, and wartime historically is somewhat friendly for the commodities markets. But you could also argue with higher energy prices now, the inputs, the fertilizer cost for our U.S. grain farmers is going to go up. So maybe the market's got to rally, especially the new crop, just to encourage that the corn and bean acres actually get planted this spring here.
And then over on the livestock side of things, how do cattle and hogs trade today?
Both meats were all down earlier this morning, just kind of on ideas that if crude continues to rally, the American consumer is going to have less money to spend on meats. But midday, the cattle market, especially the fats, were able to change and close a little bit higher on the day. The feeders were mixed. Hogs are still closed lower, but we just had our export sales announcements this morning. Export sales on pork were the lowest for the marketing year. So definitely some technical and fundamental headwinds for the pork market or hog market to overcome here today.
And we've seen that volatility in the marketplace, several dollar moves up or down on any given day, probably going to continue for the time being, right?
I would anticipate as long as the war is going on in Iran, we're going to have increased volatility. And when you talk about that, you think last Friday, I know there's a lot of grain buyers that decided not to buy grain after 115 or took some taken or they took some protection here. I would anticipate that to happen for Friday too. Just a lot of unknowns with how the war in Iran is going to uh, go over the weekend, for lack of better terms.
All right, Jason, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
The best way, Riley, is to go to our website, eggmarket.net, and click on one of our profiles, and you'll be able to connect with us. We'd be more than happy to speak with you, especially since it's so volatile right now.
All right, Jason, thanks again for the time as always, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Riley. Everybody have a great day now.